Welcome to Learn to RV Beyond the Brand. I'm Tasha, and today I am so excited to have the opportunity to introduce you all to a company that I think can really make a difference for every RVer, no matter if you are a full timer or a some-timer. Today, we get to sit down and learn about Blu Technology. We get to know a little bit about how they got started, their heart in serving the RVing community and the world at large, and what makes their products different from everyone else on the market. So, with me today is Rodrigo Barrera, Vice President of Sales at Blu Technology. So, Rodrigo, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess just take a second and tell me a little bit about yourself and give me like a 30-second version of what Blu Technology is for people who don't know.
Of course. So I joined the company about a year ago, almost exactly. I knew the owners from previous business endeavors that we had worked together on a few years ago, and it was just a good fit. Things were a little closer to where I was living at the time, or am living at the time, and so it became a kind of a no-brainer. So I came from the automotive sales background world, so it was definitely a change of pace and different nuances and things to learn. But I'm still here, so things are going all right. Mostly, what I handle is the B2B side of things. So anything that has to do with retailers or e-commerce to partners, and then as well as the OEM side, because we are partnered with some RV manufacturers and are continuing to add more partners in that sense as well. I don't really get too involved on the direct to consumer side with our
Mhm.
website and stuff. We have a team that really does a great job with that because it's mostly a marketing team effort there. So more mine is dealing with B2B stuff with OEMs and retailers. So that's kind of my background in particular. As far as Blu Technology goes, it kind of happened a little bit by accident. We were our team, our owners back in the COVID days, they had some service-based businesses that were completely unrelated, and they got into UV sterilization in the hospital scene during COVID, when hospital masks and PPE was a little bit hard to come by. So instead of throwing it all out, and they were able to find ways to sterilize and reuse some of that equipment. So we came across some UV technology that eventually we got into water with it too. So that started the whole water conversation. And we took some water products that had UV in them to a trade show. And it did really well. It sold out the first day and realized, hey, there might be something here. And again, this was before my time. So these are the stories of back in the day that I got. And through some philanthropic efforts, we did prove the concept too in terms of filtration and stuff through providing some water filtration solutions to some developing countries, and just to test out the overall concept, and also obviously give back to other communities. So
Yeah.
that's kind of our background, and
Mhm.
things have just evolved from there, and the rest is history. And we continue to grow at a very high, good pace, great pace. We're
Yeah.
excited, and it's been a whirlwind. It's hard to catch up. We don't. It's hard to catch our breath sometimes.
Yeah, that is a whirlwind. I mean, to think that that all kind of started just at COVID, and it's only 2026. That is such a fast turnaround. And I know that I'm getting way off of our outline that I sent you and everything, but that just
Yep.
amazes me because I know that you guys have taken so many steps to get your product certified and to do things that other products in the market haven't done because of how long that takes. And to know that, and then to know that you guys have not been on the market as long as some of these other products have been, that's amazing. That's really awesome. This is my
Yeah, and
genuine,
that's just a
uh,
testament to our
that's
leadership
awesome.
team. I mean, yeah, our leaders and innovators here. Mostly our ownership team that's innovating at a very rapid pace. So not only do we
Yeah.
have to keep up with, the everyday business affairs, but we also have to continue to be better and improve our products while also taking care of the customer and making sure that quality stays to our standards, right? So
Yes.
it's a team effort for sure, but it is incredible as far as the timeline goes that we've been able to achieve as much as we have. And And a lot of that comes from the very strategic leadership team that we have that makes decisions in terms of how we approach things. And
Yeah.
a lot of it comes from previous business expertise, but we're no experts in the RV field, or we've kind of been learning along the way. People, we do have some expertise in the water side of things, but
Mhm.
it's been a little bit more kind of learn as you go too. So there's been some challenges and some growing pains, and sometimes where you grow too fast, it's like, holy smokes, I gotta learn this new thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you guys are a veteran owned company, and we Learn to RV is my co-host Jennifer, her husband is a veteran, and so we love being able to support veteran owned companies. You guys have your home base in Kalamazoo. You guys, you've got your facilities, and also you've got some in Grand Rapids and in Holland, and then one in Ohio, and a town that I'm afraid to mispronounce. So I'm going to let you tell us what the name of that town is. Is it
Well,
Finley?
I don't even
Finley.
know that. It's Finley. Yep, yep.
Okay.
Finley,
Um,
and those facilities have kind of been shared between our, like I mentioned before, we had other service businesses that have given us infrastructure and some
mhm.
opportunities through Blu Technology as well. So it's been helpful to have those facilities available to us.
Well, knowing that you guys didn't come from the RV industry to start, what kind of made you guys say, this is what we're going to tackle the RV water problem? Like, we're going to take on this niche. What
Yeah.
started that whole interest?
Like I previously said, I think we took that water, the UV sterilization, and that kind of morphed into the water side of things with RV, and UV sterilization. And then we kind of brought it down a notch to start and just used filtration. That's kind of our bread and butter, as I think you've also experienced some of our products as well. But
Yes.
so that's where we started out with the filtration, and then we brought UV back in and have essentially gone for full circle back into the UV side of things. So when I say we started on the hospital side of things, we're, like I said, cleaning and sterilizing things during the COVID periods, and then it morphed into water, sterilizing water, or I guess purifying water for communities that were less served, and that kind of morphed into, hey, how do we take those portable systems? What's our other audiences? And RV was kind of an obvious choice. And our ownership team does have some RV experience as well, and have been RVers for a long time. And it was just a natural fit where we knew there was things missing in for the RV community too, where we saw that there was not a lot of emphasis on water, and get into a little bit later maybe, but water in the RV community is very unpredictable and it's very unregulated. So it becomes everybody's carrying their own bottled water. So it didn't sit well with us. And also the quality and everything that was out there was just another plastic or, component that was clunky, and we just didn't like it. There was nothing good out there that provided a quality, dependable product that we felt comfortable with. So that's how we went out to the races and said we can make something better.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of us start with kind of that basic inline filter from the store and call it a day. And that's what we had when we first got started, because we just didn't know. We knew that we needed something, but we also knew that that wasn't enough. But can you tell us a little bit about why that isn't enough? Could you kind of help educate people on why that inline filter maybe isn't good enough for the well water or the campground water that they're getting when they're camping in their RV?
Yeah. So to start that conversation, we'll get a little bit into how, campground water is considered a transient community. So as far as the regulations, basically the people that test the water are the campground owners. There's not a whole lot of regulation that goes into that. So, and they're testing for very, very few contaminants versus, if you go to municipal water, it's the municipality testing the water, and there's a whole plethora of contaminants that get tested, and that doesn't happen in the RV community. It's not a requirement. So there's a lot of unpredictability. There's different things that we can run into, right? So there's things that can make you pretty sick pretty quickly, viruses, bacteria, cysts, mold, things like that in water and coming from unknown sources and groundwater, especially nowadays with so much stuff leaching into the water. And then you run into the more inconvenient side of things, whether it's very hard water or things that can make you sick more long term, such as like for dealing with things like heavy metals or any sort of really heavy metals is what we talk about mostly. But there is some opportunity to reduce some of those pharmaceuticals in the water as well, that have made their way into our water systems. That's really what we're trying to reduce. Back to your question, uh, we see a lot of those people out there that are RVing is that they're using those inline filters. Most of those inline filters are 5, 10, 20 microns, and just for layman's terms, that's just taking out sediment, some iron, maybe dirt, anything that's pretty large, and it's not doing anything in terms of bacteria or, like I said, those, maybe some heavy metal reduction, is anything like that that's going to make you sick. So that's really where our product shines because we use one of those filters as a first line of defense that protects the next filters down line, but
Hmm.
that's all people are running around with, a lot of people, and it's like, you're just running around with a 20 micron filter or even a 10 micron filter that's not protecting you in any case. And just because your water comes out maybe a little more clear out of that thing, it's not that does not mean you're protected.
You just took out the loose dirt.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, you
You
took out
removed
the
a
big
few
chunks.
rocks.
Yeah.
So, you don't really think about protecting your water until you realize that there's something wrong. So, do you guys get, I know that you work with the B2B side, but have you heard any stories from customers where they realized that their water wasn't being protected while they were traveling on the road until it was too late?
Yeah, unfortunately, that usually happens when it's too late and they're at a campground, especially like, we hear about a lot of times we hear about the hard water, because that's
Mhm.
usually people find out pretty quick if it's very, very hard water, and they've never
Yeah.
been to that site or that geography. So usually that's when they find out and they don't have a water softener, and that can ruin a whole camping weekend or week. So
Oh, yeah.
it's one of those things that can start wreaking havoc in your plumbing and appliances and things like that relatively quickly. But we do hear of customers. The biggest thing we hear about is people carrying on bottled water, and that's one of those things that we aim to reduce from the beginning. So it's not so much stories of people getting sick, but those do happen because we do hear those. But it's so much, hey, now I don't have to carry around bottled water, and I feel good about potentially drinking this water. So we hear those stories a lot, and I tend to ask our customers at trade shows and rallies and things, "Hey, are you drinking the water coming out of this thing?" And I would say 95% of them are saying yes, so, there's it gives people peace of mind, especially when you got so many people now that are it's not just, retired folks or what say, out there, it's the whole family going out. It's the dog,
Yes.
it's the 2 kids, and then, usually those kids and dogs and things, they're a little more susceptible to certain things. So just peace of mind overall.
Yeah, my husband wanted me to let you know that our water tastes much better. he,
That's good.
he was
That's one of the
he,
steps there. We want to make it taste better too.
yes, the tasty filter is working.
Yes.
Well,
Yep.
to that point, we got our hands on the AR3 and we've had a chance to test it in our new rig. And it's made a huge difference in our water. Like I mentioned, we had the inline filter. And then once we realized that that was just like not doing the job, we also got one of those big tabletop, I'm not going to say the brand, but one of those big tabletop filters that sets up always. And so we have our two kids traveling with us. So our son just turned 18 in November and our oldest just turned 21. Um, they're great kids who don't think about, oh, I just took the rest of the water out of this thing. So a lot of times you'd go
Yeah.
to get water and it was empty. Like all the time it was empty. So then you got to fill it up and then you got to wait for it to go through the I love being able to just turn on the faucet and go, look at the clean water coming out of my sink right now. It's the most amazing thing. I have gotten off on a tangent about how wonderful I feel about drinking out of my tap. And so now I've got to find my question. So the
Okay.
AR3, it's a three-stage system, and that may sound a little overwhelming to some people, but it might also be confusing for some people because there are some other quote unquote three-stage systems out there in the market. So could you walk us through what your guys' three-stage system is, kind of what it does at each stage, and then the importance? You've touched on it a little bit, like that first stage is your, filtering out the debris, but can you kind of touch on what each stage does and why it's important to go through the order that it does?
Yeah, of course. A little bit about like your filter that you were previously using is, usually we're dealing with a one stage system there. That's
Yes.
in many cases there's variations of it that are just making the water taste better. They're not going through a very low micron filtration, which is going to really get into that bacteria virus level of things. And obviously, like you said, there's major inconveniences, right? We're waiting for those things to filter your water and have the water all go through. So
Come back in
I'm not
20
saying
minutes
those.
for a glass of water.
Yeah, exactly. So those things have a place. I mean, we have some of our customers that use those as a final step, just as an extra layer of protection.
Mhm.
So there's a space for those, but I don't think you should be. There's benefits to also running your water from a filter from the beginning, whether you're filling your tanks or just running your city water in the RV, right? So, because then your appliances and your plumbing also benefits from that, and you just have the peace of mind that everything that went into your RV was filtered, and you can drink it if you decide to at one faucet or the other faucet. You can do it however you want. There's some convenience factor to that too, right?
Yes.
Including your showering too. So you're showering, your water's getting softened and also filtered, and so there's a lot of benefits to filtering at the source rather than just your drinking water um,
Absolutely.
system. As far as our system goes, we have, like you said, a three-stage filtration system. Our first filter is a 5 micron filter that, like we talked about, has just going to take the big chunks out to kind of save the other filters, right? It extends the longevity of the other filters. And so that the second filter is really where the magic happens. That's our zero point 0.2 micron filter. And that's
That's the
bacteria and
off-grid one,
virus
right?
level. Yeah, so we have two variations, but when we get down to zero point 0.2 micron filters, that's just so people can visualize that a little bit. It's like it's 350 times smaller than a human hair. I got a little note here. Let's see, up to 25 times smaller than a bacteria and about the size
Wow.
of what a virus is. So
Wow.
that's just the level that we're getting down to while also preserving water pressure and flow rate into the RVs. So that's the second filtration step, and that's really where, like, I would feel comfortable drinking the water coming out of it, but we
Yeah.
had a final polishing step onto our systems, which is a tasty granulated activated charcoal filter. So that's gonna just take out a lot of those nasty smells and tastes that come in that water while also reducing some final steps as far as reduction goes. But that's really the three-stage system that we've implemented and our customers rave about. So it's kind of covering most of our bases. And then if
Mhm.
you can add softening onto that depending on where you're going. It's one of those things that I just recommend having a softener on board, because when you need it, you don't need it till you need it, right? So it's
Right.
a lot of folks skip that at first, and especially if they're going to different places they don't know about how the water quality and things. A lot of times they can get you know caught in a bad moment with the soft as far as the hardness of the water.
Yeah. So, how, with those filters, how does an RVer know, okay, it is time for me to change these filters out?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways that we tell people or recommend to our customers. The first way, like you can know, is if you really start to lose your water pressure, right? So if water pressure is really starting to go downhill, it probably means your filters need changing. And there's no hard set rule in terms of gallons or time or anything like that because we can't control how dirty that water is. So
Right.
we give maximums in terms of, hey, don't leave your filters in there for a whole year because that's probably not going to work. But
Right.
so the water pressure, yeah. So that's the first step that, people notice. However, if people have not noticed a drop in water pressure in 3 to 4 months, especially if they're full-time RVing,
Mhm.
we do recommend those be swapped out in 3 to 4 months. So that because these filters are sitting in a hot, wet, temperature changes, but a lot of times it's warm and wet water. There's a chance for bacteria or mold to start growing on them even though they are sealed up. There is a chance of that, and we want to. That's just industry recommendation in general. It's not just our filters, right? So we do recommend that as a precaution more than anything to swap those out every 3 to 4 months. But it could be sooner if that water is just really bad. You could be swapping them out sooner. So that's just one thing we can't control. We can't control how dirty it is, and a lot of times those filters do have to come out sooner.
We've definitely been in some areas that have had some rough water comparative to other places where it's like, oh, this water is almost like municipal water. So that
Yeah.
makes sense to me that you can't determine exactly how long, but those are some good things to look for. So I love that. The
Yeah.
AR3, one thing
One
that
more
I noticed,
recommendation for you.
uh-huh.
Sorry, I'll give you one more
No.
recommendation too, since
Yeah.
since you're using our system, is if you are not full timing and you're putting your or anybody, any of our customers, if they're not full timing and they're going to leave the filters in, for more than a week, we do recommend taking them out, letting them air dry for probably close to a week, letting them air dry. And then some of our customers will put them in like a Ziploc bag and throw them in the fridge just to avoid things potentially growing on them.
Okay.
We just don't wanna leave them sitting for an extended period of time in a wet, hot, moist environment, I guess.
Okay. That's a really good tip. I would never think to do that. So
Yep.
one of the things I noticed whenever we were like doing our unboxing, this was the first thing I've ever unboxed before. And I felt very
Yes.
we watched a lot of unboxing things with my kids when they were little. And I was like, why are we so excited
Yep.
about unboxing? But I was genuinely excited about unboxing this. But it was so light. So your guys's AR3 comes in under 8 pounds and it's small. Like it's small. And most of the 3-step systems that I've seen out there are really bulky, they're really heavy. Was that like a this is we're getting the engineers that can get us there? How did the team decide this is what we're going for? Or was that even what they were going for when they launched out the gate trying to get the system created?
Yeah, so from the beginning, obviously, like I talked about, we wanted to make something different that wasn't like everybody else's systems. Two things went into that is a little background on the most systems out there are 10-inch systems that are kind of industry standard, right? And the way
Mhm.
those came about is because those were available for either under sink applications for the household for an actual like home or just in general they were off the shelf systems that were available to companies, and also filtration technology wasn't as good back then. So those two things kind of contributed to, hey, we need a 10-inch system and here's the 10-inch systems that are available to us. It wasn't necessarily the right use case for RVs, but it was just what was available to them. So I don't blame them for using it.
Right.
But we we realized, hey, these systems are huge, and does an RV need such a big system, a 10-inch system? And the answer was no. After doing some testing, is first of all, RVs don't use nearly as much water as a normal house. Our water usage is much reduced. Um, so we can get away with a 5-inch system, which is really what we pioneered. Since then, a lot of competitors have come out with 5-inch systems, but we realized that 5-inch systems are good enough. I mean, we have families in full size Class A's that are running 5-inch 3-stage systems and do just fine with them. So we found that 5-inch technology and really started to push that. So that reduced our footprint and obviously our weight too. So that's one portion of it. The other portion of that is we decided to use materials that not anybody else was using. So that a big one of that is being the aluminum components. So if you take the AR3 that you have and you see all the exoskeleton, the silver and the blue top plate and all that, the frame, as we call it, that's all aluminum components, and that's what gives
Mhm.
you that surprisingly lightness, right, when you pick it up for the first time.
Yeah.
And then our canisters are stainless steel, so those, those they're a little heavier than your plastic canisters, but using that aluminum components is makes up for that. So most systems out there at the time were all steel and plastic, and they were just heavy, very heavy, right? Because they're not only almost double the size, but they were also using much heavier metals or components. So and we kept the stainless steel on purpose. We could have obviously gone with plastic canisters and made it even lighter, but we just didn't feel that that was a service to our customers in terms of the
Yeah.
quality that they expected, right? So everything we do is pretty much stainless steel. We're trying to stay away from plastic as much as we can, as well as things like brass and metals like that that have a little bit higher tendency to corrode in the long term, can be a little more unpredictable in terms of their makeup. So um, that was our big thing is we always use stainless steel fittings and connectors anywhere we can. It's going to be stainless steel, and all our accessories are stainless steel. So that's been a big thing for us.
It's so easy to I don't even think assemble is the word. Like that was
Yeah,
not assembly. That was I feel like it was as easy as breathing to connect it to my RV. It was so simple.
yeah,
It wasn't simple in a way. A lot of times you get something for your RV and it's like it's so simple to attach or it's so simple to apply to your RV
yeah,
and then you get it and you're like, yeah, it's so simple because it's so cheaply made, or it's so, this is going to break in like 3 days. But it was so well made. The parts were so reliably, just craftfully made. And it still was just incredibly easy. Like my husband, after I assembled it all, he then took it apart and then he redid it and he was like, watch me do it with one hand. We
yeah,
we're nerds. So we were, how fast can we put this together? So yeah, it's a very light unit, which for an RVer, we weigh our unit to make sure that we're not going over the GVWR or the GVRW. I get the letters mixed up
yeah,
because we don't want to do any damage to like our suspension or our frame or anything. And so knowing that we are able to protect our family with the water that we're using and do that without having to sacrifice a lot of our carrying weight in our rig is just a huge bonus for us. So, applaud, snaps, all of the different ways that I can applaud you guys that I love how light that is.
yeah. Yeah, and that was part of the goal, is to have not only
Yeah.
lightness, but also make it healthier too. Like we said, less
Hmm.
plastic, more stainless
Yes.
steel, so that we don't, you know, the plastic and microplastics are, a big
Yes.
conversation these days. And anytime we can, use a stainless steel component like the canisters, we'd rather use that
Yeah.
versus a plastic component, not only for health concerns, but also potentially for long-term durability, for our customers. That was one of the big things when we started, is there was two on the customer side of things, there was two things that we really wanted. We wanted to be, have our quality always be at top of mind, and then also our customer service side of things is we also wanted to take care of the customer after the sale, or even if they had questions before the sale, or anything like that. So we do house our customer service team here in house, and have people ready to talk to you at any point in time.
I love that. So
Yep.
someone might look at a TDS tester after running water through their AR3 and see a number higher than they were expecting. Can you talk a little bit about the benefit of that higher rating, especially because those are all
Yeah.
words
So
that are foreign to me?
Yeah, so TDS stands for total dissolved solids, right? So,
Mhm.
with the way a TDS tester works is it's estimating total dissolved ions based on electrical conductivity of the waters. A little bit of a mouthful there, but that's how that's working. And we do want I mean, if you're getting distilled water, or things that go through an RO filter, that's when you're going to lose all those ions that we actually, we want most of them. A lot of them, like sodium and chlorine and things, you want those in your water. Those are the minerals that keep your body moving and things. So we don't want to take out everything out of the water. So dissolved ions go right through our filters versus when you start talking RO and things like that, that's when you start to lose them. Although there are most RO systems now are remineralizing the water, but so TDS is not a full picture of how filters are doing at filtering the water. There's a lot of, small organic molecules that can get through there, salts, metals, fluoride, things like that, that can go right through those filters. And it's just not a full picture of what's actually in your water. Some of those things might be good, and some of those things, there's only one way to take them out. And there's, a lot of times that's our
Really interesting.
and there's reasons we have not gone down the RO route. It's just it's not very efficient for the RV community, and then like
Yeah,
we talked about, we lose a lot of the minerals.
that's really interesting. I want to talk about Blue's mission because I love this so much. I love any company that has a mission that goes beyond just the bottom dollar. So I know that you guys partner with water.org to get clean water access globally. How did that mission become part of the company's identity? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so part of that was we wanted to start with a more philanthropic approach to our business, and especially during the early stages when we were testing things and seeing where these water filters and systems could be used. Since then, we have evolved more into the RV space and as you know, but it was always a priority to try and not only give back, but also see what other avenues we could use our systems for. And that continues to be something that we think about. So not just, hey, what's the next RV product can we make? It's more, hey, what's the next community that we can serve, right? It's not just the
Yeah.
RV community. Can we serve other types of communities, right? That whether it's in our country or outside of our country, that are potentially underserved when it comes to water. So it's just finding another avenue for your product to be used, I guess.
Yeah. And then to your point, I mean, you've mentioned it several times, but there is also an environmental angle here, in addition to just
Yep.
the microplastics that are being avoided in the water that we drink. You guys are eliminating a large number of plastic bottles. I mean, even just in the RVing community, there was a number, it was like a family of four generates 174 pounds of plastic bottle waste a year, which is unbelievably frightening. So, how can Blu Technology help that family change? Kind of how they contribute to the planet's sustainability down the road.
Yeah, so I think we've touched on a lot of those in terms of the bottled water usage is probably the most immediate change that we can see, right? So we all see it in the waterways at campgrounds and things where, people leave, 50 water bottles behind and it's nobody bats an eye. And it's just the way things are. And that's one thing we wanted to really get away from, not only for the environmental side, but also who wants to go buy cases of water and carry them. And, they also weigh
Right.
quite a bit. So, that our system weighs less and has less of a footprint than most of those water cases. And then our other part of that is how can we make these systems more environmentally friendly in terms of the long-term costs, associated with, whether it's replacing one of the parts or components, and do we have plastic canisters or plastic components that need to be replaced and thrown in the trash every few years or every year or whatever. So luckily most of our systems are, like I talked about, is stainless steel and aluminum, and those are things that can either be recycled, and they're not, plastics that are going to sit around in our landfills for hundreds of years. So there's definitely that component to it as well in terms of sustainability of our products long term.
I love that. So, Blue has become a trusted name in the RV industry to the point, and you talked about this a little bit. You specialize in the B2B side. Can you talk a little bit about how the relationships opened up? You're working with brands. You guys are now kind of industry standard for being installed into some of the big RV brands that people can go. I mean, I could go buy some of the brands off of a lot today and find Blu Technology water filters already installed, right?
Yeah. Yep. So one of our biggest partners right now is the Alliance brand, and they've been a great partner for us. So I think most of the RV manufacturers, and it still is honestly, water tends to be somewhat of an afterthought in terms of filtration. And they figure the customer can figure it out after they buy their RV, and they don't really have to mess with it. And unfortunately, that just continues to happen. And we are seeing some manufacturers, especially um, in general, I guess, start to make changes, whether they use other manufacturer, components, plastic, obviously we hope for them to switch to blue and use our components, but as of a couple years ago, probably we started to see more and more manufacturers actually include at least a single stage filtration system that gives people something in terms of filtration. Unfortunately, that's really not enough to replace bottled water. Depending on what filters go in those things. So yeah, it's been a good avenue for trust with the RV community when they see, hey, manufacturers are trusting the Blue Tech products. We should probably take a look at that, whether it's an RV that already has it on board or if it's something
Yeah.
aftermarket that they're going to go buy. So um, it's been a good avenue for us to gain trust and exposure, right? Because these a lot of these manufacturers are looking for ways to create value for their cut consumers, and our
Hmm.
our brand also provides that, right? It's no different than saying, hey, our home has a, I don't know, what's a high end fridge, right? And, it's just
Right.
okay, it has a blue tech system that has a value of, I don't know, this canister has a value of $200 to the customer, right? So that's just passed down value and perceived value that these manufacturers can pass on. So, um, at a very easy way to integrate too, because a lot of these guys are using 10-inch canisters that we also provide, and so it's just an easy swap. We're not asking them to, re-engineer their whole wet bay or plumbing system. These are easy to swap things, and there are some people that are starting to consider things like three-stage systems on board from the factory, and as well as things like UV, sterilization of the water. So it's starting to catch on, and also we wanted to provide more of a premium option for folks instead of the, I mean, some of these folks are buying $1 million RVs, and you got a white plastic 10-inch canister in them, and it's like that's the same thing that $50,000 RV has in it. How's that possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a very mutually beneficial relationship for
Yeah.
also providing other solutions for the RV manufacturers. So we're not just hey, we'll sell you this component that came from China. We also engineered the product, and also we later down the road, if you need other solutions, we do have other solutions available from our brand as well.
That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about um, the NSF certification because that's a big deal. It is to
Yeah.
me anyway, as a consumer. So my AR3 system that I have, the off grid filter, and then I believe it was the Tasty filter as well. I believe is NSF certified, which means it's been lab tested. The off grid filter was third party tested. It's been factory audited. It's done all of that stuff, but not everything that's out on the market, like I had mentioned earlier, has gone through all of like they can go to market without having that performance standard testing done and that safety standard testing done. Why was that certification so important to your team to get before they went to market? I mean, this is it, you hear a lot from different brands about how it's just a hurdle. It's just a hurdle that keeps people from being able to get the product that they want. But you guys managed to do it, and you managed to do it pretty quickly. I mean, going from 2020 to 2026, and you guys are already in the market with this. Why was that so important for you guys?
Mostly it was trust. I mean, we want people be able to not just say, "Hey, we're the best. We use this best materials, and trust us on that." We wanted to also provide third-party validation on that. So we started out by certifying our systems as a whole and saying, "Hey, when you buy all these components together, there's a NSF certification behind it that um, gives you gives you the ability to have that peace of mind, right? So that NSF certification is going to tell you that you're not that the materials used are not going to leach harmful chemicals or leaching anything into your water that as time goes on, and then also whether it's a temperature component, if the hoses or the fittings get really hot, with hot water or things like that, or get left out in the sun, which a lot of times do in the RV community, how are those things going to react to, are they going to start breaking down and dumping stuff into
Yeah.
your water? So there's a lot of pros to it that we
Hmm.
wanted to make sure we covered our bases on and not have to backtrack later. And then, like you said, we do have our off-grid zero point 0.2 micron filter, has a third party performance testing behind it, where not only do they say, hey, these materials are zero point 0.2 micron and, all the materials are certified, but they also go by and test, here's all the impurities that this filter has removed during our testing. So now we can also provide NSF and third party validation as far as the performance of the filter and not just the materials used as being safe. There are different layers to NSF, and that's a
Yes.
whole nother conversation that
Yes.
I also still don't 100% get into, but there's a whole lot of different avenues you can go with that. But
Hmm.
we wanted to make sure we covered that from the beginning.
I love that. I think it is very important with um, products where you are promising a safety for um, for a family. I mean, you're promising a product that is going to improve the lives um, of your consumer. I think it's important to be able to back that claim up, and I love that that is something that you guys have done. It makes me
Yeah.
as a consumer feel prouder to put my dollar there. It makes me feel more comfortable with saying this is what I'm going to invest in, this is what I'm committing to, this is, versus just going, well, I think that this might work, and so I really hope that my kids don't get sick. I really hope that this keeps us all safe. And I'll continue to buy these filters, and we'll just, on a prayer and a whim, we'll see if the water comes out clean. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and as a, as a dad myself, I definitely, resonate with that. It's just when you're young and gunning, you're just, I'll just drink out of the hose and but once you start, bringing families on board, and especially a lot of these
Uh-huh.
families that are full timing now,
Yep.
it's not just a weekend of exposure now. Now we're
Yep.
exposing ourselves all year round to these
Yes.
water sources that are questionable. So
Mhm.
then there's so many more families now that are full-time RVers that could potentially be exposed at a higher level because they're doing it on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
it was an important factor that we continue to implement into more and more of our products as far as NSF certification. And so we just got done with a whole nother round of other products that we're still pending on. We were pending on those certifications, and now we're pretty much done with those too. So we continue to add to that NSF portfolio of ours for sure.
That's awesome. Well, if our listeners want to find Blue Tech products, what's the best way to get their hands on an AR3 like I've got, or any of these other products that you've got coming out? Are you guys going to be? I know I met you guys at, or was introduced to you guys at the Hershey RV show. Are you guys going to be out there again with us this year?
Yeah, so the big 2 shows that we do on a corporate level that we partner with Gen RV is Hershey and Tampa. Those are the 2 big shows we go to. We have partners that set up at other shows, such as Techno RV is one of our big show partners that sets up booths at different shows and rallies and things like that. So you can also get our products through them. We keep adding new retailers that you could, most of the major online RV and camping retailers do have our products now, and we continue to add partners and products. So some things are exclusive to Blue Tech, and we keep them only for our website. So feel free for the newest products, especially come check out gobluetech.com and come see what's coming out. So there's a lot of new products that we make sure that they go through validation and make sure we're not running into any major issues before we release them to our partners. So if you want to see the newest and latest things, we do go through our website for that.
I do like new. I do like being in the new camp, so I may have to haunt your website a little bit.
Yep,
Last
keep an eye on
question.
it. We have
I will.
quite a few product launches, I'm sure, scheduled for the next few years.
Awesome. So, last question, if there's one thing that you want someone to remember the next time that they pull up to a campground and connect their RV to on-site water, what is it?
When you go RVing, you never want it to be a health risk to go RVing. And regardless of what filtration system you decide to use a filtration system, preferably some sort of third party or three-stage filtration system, but filter your water that's coming out because potentially that water, if you plan on drinking it or cooking with it, anything that's the one thing coming out of your RV and coming out of that campsite that's going to go in your body, whether drink it, cook it, whatever you end up doing with it. And personally, like I always say, when you get one body, make sure you take care of it. So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents on when you go hook up your water, make sure you're just being cautious and taking the right precautions to filter your water.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rodrigo, thank you so much for joining us around our campfire today. And please thank the Blue team for sharing the AR3 off grid system with us and all of the information about it. I just kept reading it over and over again. The 20 microns to the zero point 0.2 microns made my head hurt. I just that number alone scared me and elated me at the same time to know that I had made such a difference in possible filter of my own personal water. So if you guys want to learn more about the great products that Blu Tech offers, you can find them at gobluetech.com, and it is GOBLUTECH.com. And then keep an eye out for them at the Hershey RV show this September and all of the other different places that Rodrigo just mentioned with their great partners. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Learn to RV the podcast. And we'll catch you tomorrow around the campfire for this week's Community Spotlight. Thank you guys for joining us.